Good morning and welcome to this Kaiko Systems webinar. My name is Taz Bachu. I'm your host and moderator for today's call. Before we get into the webinar, just a few house rules. Obviously, all of the attendees are in listen-only mode. So in order to interact with you and in order to engage you, we will be pushing out some polls. We will be asking you to interact with our speaker in the Q&A portion of the webinar as well. So if there are any questions you have around SIRE 2.0 or how Kaiko Systems can help, please do engage with us through that Q&A function. I will be on the other side of the laptop and I will make sure that our host has all of your questions. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to Kaiko Systems' latest webinar, which is all about SIRE 2.0 and how to ensure that your crews are ready for the new OCIMF regime. As mentioned, your presentation team today includes myself, your host, Taz Bachu, and our head of Maritime, Nick Vaughan. Nick is an absolute expert when it comes to all things SIRE 2.0 and has been at the forefront of the development of our own SIRE 2.0 self-assessment tool. Having spent 12 years at Lloyd's Register, Nick has now worked very closely with our product engineering teams to really develop a tool that has the seafarer at its heart. A bit about me. I'm head of sales here at Kaiko Systems, and I've spent the last 10 years working in B2B SaaS, notably in the last 3 working exclusively for maritime tech organizations. Today's presentation will cover 3 key topics. First and foremost, SIRE 2.0. It's rolling out quicker than you think. So who is Kaiko Systems and why are we talking about how we can help today? The second point is how to ensure your crew and your fleet are ready for the new OCIMF regime, and Nick will be walking you through a couple of ideas and solutions that we have that may help you prepare for the new OCIMF regime. And finally, there will be some time for Q&A. So we would love to hear from you about your challenges and about things that you're doing to get ready for the new OCIMF regime. Kaiko Systems is really inspiring a maritime evolution. We found, working with over 500 vessels worldwide, that we really are the missing link when it comes to frontline technical operations. And what we're able to do is we're able to actually provide a standardized data set at scale for the maritime industry, which really helps us connect the dots and turns that frontline work that your seafarers are conducting on your vessels into connected and actionable intelligence. As you can see, that we are trusted by many international shipping companies with fleets across all different types. That includes dry and wet. One of the things that we've identified working with such companies like in the slide before is that there are a number of challenges, particularly in the wet fleet, when it comes to the increasing complexity of regulations on board vessels. We found that a number of ship owners and ship managers find that there is a knowledge gap across the fleet, and this is particularly prevalent when it comes to OCIMF's new regime, which brings into effect human factors and also moves away from the existing VIQ7 format that people have been used to over the last decade. We also find that a number of organizations are using outdated or non-performant software, and many seafarers are still using a clipboard, a printed checklist, and a digital camera in order to record their observations and findings. Now, all of these problems lead to some significant pain points. Most importantly, the unplanned off-hire, the detentions at port, but also the negative observations or violations recorded by those inspectors provide significant limitations for organizations operating tankers and other types of wet vessels. The other more important thing when it comes to SIRE 2.0 is the inclusion of human factors within the survey and questionnaire. And actually, we found that human factors lead to more accidents, more equipment failures, and a higher risk of having those negative observations recorded by your vetting inspector. And finally, all of this information is really kind of collected and put into a Pandora's box. There is no transparency between ship and shore. And so actually the shore team, whilst working towards getting that vetting and getting those positive results to those inspections, often find that they do not know what's happening at the front line and on their vessels. So how can Kaiko Systems help? Kaiko Systems creates a dynamic workflow on board your vessels and with your shore team. What we do is we provide a mobile-first app that digitizes those OCIMF workflows. It allows your seafarers to gain on-the-job guidance, step-by-step training on how to complete and prepare for an OCIMF SIRE 2.0 vetting inspection. Once we have all of that data, we then pass it to a dashboard, allowing the shore team to really understand what's happening on board their vessel. They have a finger on the pulse in terms of the progress of a particular inspection and are able to provide guidance and insight into what a vessel needs to do in order to ensure 100% completion in that self-assessment. And finally, what we're able to do is provide an additional verification and analysis and use artificial intelligence to extrapolate the metadata that is collected through the seafarer's mobile devices and provide plausibility and corrosion detection analysis, which again just adds an additional layer of confidence when it comes to operations on board your vessel. That is Kaiko Systems in a nutshell and how we help. But I'm going to hand over now to our host, Nick Vaughan, who will take you through the new SIRE 2.0 inspection regime, which will become mandatory for over 12,000 vessels at the beginning of 2024. Over to you, Nick.
Brilliant. Thanks, Taz. Thanks for the introduction and kind of the overview of Kaiko, and more specifically what we're talking about today, which is SIRE 2 vetting preparation. So as Taz mentioned, we've incorporated this vetting preparation into our system, and the new module directly applicable for this sits within the existing architecture of our system. So as Taz mentioned, we have the mobile app on board, which has been developed specifically for the crew to use on board with a tablet or smartphone. And then we have the web-based dashboard, which your shore teams can use to have that overview, that 1,000-foot view of the fleet, and zoom in to see the individual vessel status, issues, and really manage that vetting preparation process to ensure that the vessel and the crew are ready when the vetting inspection takes place. Now, I'm super excited today to show you the end-to-end process in our system and how you and your crews can use Kaiko to help prepare for the forthcoming SIRE 2 vetting inspections that will start in beginning of 2024. And we'll walk you through that process and explain how Kaiko can assist you, how it can assist your crews in this kind of step change that's happening in the vetting process. So let me share my screen with you and we can start the process. So it all starts in our dashboard. And as I mentioned, this is web-based. So your shore team can log in from anywhere in the world, whether they're traveling, working from home, in the office, they always have access. You don't need VPNs or servers. You can just log in directly through the web browser. And this is where the vetting preparation process starts. So as we onboard your fleets, we set up all of your vessels specifically in the system. So you'd have your fleet onboarded here. And we set up each vessel individually based on the vessel type and also the equipment configuration on board. So, we have the SIRE 2 questions specifically applicable to your vessel. And this gets us away from these kind of generic checklists where crews are getting used to marking out areas that are not applicable, and really gets them to focus on the equipment and arrangement that's specific to their vessel, to their operations. We can see here with the webinar demo tanker, we've set this up as a product tanker on board, so taking that specific question set. And obviously, if we were to onboard your fleet, we would look specifically at the equipment and arrangement on board your specific vessels, going down to the level of detail of what type of inert gas system you have, for instance, what firefighting system you have in the engine room, type of lifeboats on board, etc. And this allows us to create a very vessel-specific questionnaire. So as I'm sure you're all aware, there's a vast amount of questions that are now present in the OCIMF SIRE 2 library. The information published by OCIMF spans to over 1,200 pages. And this is where our questionnaires allow your crew to really focus in on the tasks that are relevant to them, the equipment and arrangement on their vessel to make sure that their vessel is prepared and your crew are prepared in advance of that first vetting inspection taking place. So let's start the process. We can see here the vessel's been set up in the system. And the first thing we need to do is to configure the vetting intervals. So as we can see here, everything is based on the last vetting date that was taken place. So in this case, we can say that, as an example, the last vetting inspection occurred at the beginning of October. And this is something that we would set up with you when we onboard your fleet to make sure that we have all of the correct information and the correct data for your vessels. Now, once we have the anchor date, which is the last inspection, we can start to do the scheduling. So here we have the SIRE interval, and this can be based on 6 months, for instance, as per the OCIMF requirements, but we also have flexibility here. If you want to complete your vetting intervals on 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, etc. So we can set this up specific for your operations and your vessel. So in this case, for the webinar, we'll say it's a 5-month vetting interval. And then we have what we call the pre-vetting timeline. Now, this is the period in advance of your next vetting due date when the crew can start to prepare and complete this pre-vetting inspection within the system. So, with this large change that's coming, maybe at the beginning your crew have, for instance, the full 5 months to do the vetting preparation, give them the maximum amount of time to work through all of these questions and prepare the vessel and prepare themselves. But maybe after you've gone through a few of these new SIRE vetting cycles, you can then adjust it to more of a business as usual, something that you're more familiar with today. And maybe 3 months or 2 months in advance of the vetting due date, the crew can start this preparation. In this case, for the webinar, we'll start with the 5 months. And we can then see, based on the last inspection date, our interval and our timeline, the vessel is automatically calculating the next SIRE due date, so when the vetting inspection needs to be completed and when the crew can start their pre-vetting preparation. So we save this, and this sets up the cycle in the system based on our anchor date of the last inspection, scheduling our next SIRE vetting inspection, and giving the window for the crew to start their preparation. And we can see here, everything's been set up for the vessel. And we can now start to edit the specific vetting period. So we can see here when the vetting inspection is next due, and we can see the window when the preparation can be completed in. In this case, maybe you want to update the name here to say oil major vetting. You can give a name, for instance. This allows you to differentiate between the different vetting inspections and allow you to identify the specific vetting inspections when you want to do some analysis later. So we can see here in the dashboard now that the vetting preparation has been set up correctly. And as you can see, everything here is blank. The vessel hasn't done anything yet, but everything is now configured in the system in preparation for the crew to start the first vetting preparation. And as I mentioned, this is the process that we would go through with you onboarding your fleet. So taking the vessel specific plans, your company procedures to set up each vessel individually, and then working with your vetting team or vetting manager to ensure that the dates are configured correctly so that your fleet is ready to go. Now, this would be the point where we hand over to the application, and let's see what the steps the crew would next take to start that vetting preparation on board.
Nick, we've had a question come in when it comes to the types of devices that your crews can use on board. Are there any restrictions or limitations to the devices that Kaiko Systems works on?
Yeah, great question. So fundamentally, no, there are no limitations. The system is device agnostic, so it can run on Android, Windows, iOS, smartphones, tablets. You can even run it in a browser as well. So the system is designed specifically to be flexible and give you that maximum flexibility with hardware. Now, as we know, with the tanker industry, we need to have intrinsically safe devices on board where they're used in the dangerous areas. So, for instance, out on deck. And for that reason, we see now most of our customers are using iSafe intrinsically safe devices. They come in a range of form factors, both tablet and smartphone. So you can really choose the type or size of hardware that's relevant to you. But fundamentally, no, you can use any hardware on board. And additionally, because of the requirement to have the intrinsically safe device for use outside on the deck, but you can also use other devices, for instance, within the accommodation. So now when we look at the process for pre-vetting, and particularly with the human element, it might be that you want to have one intrinsically safe device that the crew can use outside, but within the accommodation, maybe you also have a couple of standard either Android, Windows, or iOS tablets that are left within the accommodation, maybe in the ship's office, or in one of the mess rooms. And the crew can then also use these devices to work through their preparation, maybe focusing more on the human element and the training section that doesn't require them to be outside on the deck.
Amazing. Thanks, Nick. And that just prompts me to launch our first poll, which is what kind of devices are on board your vessels? So you'll see that pop up on your screen now. There are 3 answers here. The first is we have intrinsically safe or ATEX devices. The second is we currently have smartphones. And the third is we do not have any devices on board yet. Results are coming in, and I will publish those results once Nick is finished with this product demo.
Brilliant. Thanks, Taz. So, as I mentioned, we've looked at the setup process now for onboarding the fleet, setting up the vetting preparation and the SIRE intervals within the system. And now we can look at what the crew would do as the next step. So, As I mentioned, and a great question there from Taz, the system is device agnostic. I'm running the system here on our intrinsically safe iSafe tablet, the IS 930.1. And this is fundamentally the same tablet that the OCIMF vetting inspectors are using as well. So this is being rolled out to all of the vetting inspectors globally, and we are using the same device, and a number of our customers are also using the same device as well. We're running the tablet here. I've just got it connected to the screen so that I can share this with you this morning. And this is exactly what the crew would be using on board. So you can see when the crew log in, they can see the SIRE 2 module here. And when they open the module, this is when they can start their preparation process. So we can see here, we need to create our profiles. And this is because we have rank-specific questionnaires. So as I mentioned, we set up your vessel specifically based on the vessel type, your company procedures, etc., and the vessel configuration. And then within the application that the crew are using on board on the tablet, they then need to create their profiles. And this then enables a rank-specific questionnaire to be generated. So in this case, I'll set up my profiles. I can then show you a couple of different questionnaires relevant to specific ranks on board. So the crew can take a picture to identify who they are. This allows quicker identification. So we take a picture here, enter the name. This is very simple for the crew to set this up on board and select their rank. So in this case, I'll select my rank as master. And we can see here, my profile is now being generated. And this is now generating my rank-specific questionnaire. So when we set up the system, we assign questions to specific ranks on board based on their role and their responsibility. Now we have a full generic question set that covers all of the questions in the OCIMF library, so covers those 1,200 pages, those 12 chapters of questions. We have a system that's ready out of the box for you to use to really commence your pre-vetting preparation tomorrow. But we can also work with your vetting department also to configure that specifically for your company. What that means is, who are your relevant officers on board that are responsible for the different areas? Who's your security officer? Who's your safety officer? Who's your environmental officer? And in that way, we can really tailor the application so that the questions are applied specifically based on your crew's role and responsibility. Again, making the whole system particularly relevant for your crew on board, so they're specifically dealing with their area of role and their responsibility. And we can see now, once I've set up my profile as the master and logged in, I'm presented with chapters with questions that are relevant to me. Now we can see the same questions and the same structure in the OCIMF question library, and we've really mirrored that to make it as simple as possible for the crew to do that preparation in advance of the vetting inspection on board. And within each chapter, we can see the different questions that are relevant to my specific rank here as master. So we can see, for instance, we have the certification and documentation, a large number of questions there, but also other areas as well. Now, these questions cover the hardware, process, and human element. And this enables the crew to work through these questions to confirm that the vessel's equipment and structure is in the required condition, covering the hardware element. The company's procedures are available and being followed, the process element, and also the newest element, which is human element. So this is the crew's familiarity with their role and their responsibility, and also starts to give some additional guidance and training for the crew. And we can walk through a number of these different question types to illustrate how we are supporting those and enabling the crew to complete a really holistic and comprehensive vetting preparation. So in this case, we can see here, if we jump into chapter 4, we can see within the ECDIS setup and operation, there's a number of questions. So we can jump into this question here. And for each question, we have guidance configured in the application. So the idea here is that you have the guidance directly relevant to the question that you're being asked. And as we can see here, when we select in the top right-hand corner, we have guidance information, and this is a combination of industry guidance, so whether this is TMSA KPIs, like IMO circulars, etc., or SIGTO documentation. This can all be provided here. And in addition, this can be supplemented with your company-specific procedures, or for instance, references to your procedures or SMS, etc. And in this way, you can really then tie the OCIMF question library to your company procedures, which allows the crew to prepare more comprehensively and have that reference ready when they are interviewed by the vetting inspector on board. So, can you show me where the procedures are for in this example relating to ECDIS, etc. And the crew can then do the preparation, can see the guidance here, the industry best practice, and for instance, can also add in a reference to your company procedures as well, so they know exactly how that ties together. So they can familiarize themselves with the guidance. And once they've looked at the guidance, they can then work through the questions to cover the relevant areas from the OCIMF question library. Now, within the OCIMF documentation, we have expected evidence, grounds for negative observation, expected inspector actions, and all of that information is being combined to generate this question set. And we work closely with our development partner, Columbia Ship Management, and also a very experienced vetting inspector, Sean Noonan, to generate these questions in a way that covers the requirements of the OCIMF question library, but also gives additional insight into exactly what a vetting inspector is looking at to make sure that the crew are covering all of those required areas and are really prepared for this first SIRE 2 vetting inspection. So we can work through these questions and provide the relevant information. So for instance, confirming that all crew members are responsible, have received their training. As a master, I can check the records and confirm that, yes. We can enter dates where we want to have additional verification from the shore side that this has been done. So we could, for instance, just selecting some dates here. Obviously, we could onboard the crew would be checking the files to confirm when this training was done. We can just select some dates here. And then that can obviously be presented shoreside to make sure that this is being done correctly. And we can see it's very easy in the date picker here to select the relevant dates and allow the crew to then confirm this information, confirm all of this training has been done. This is prompting them also to check the records on board because maybe one crew member's training hasn't been done or it's not recorded correctly. So in this way, it's guiding them through the process and allowing them to enter that information to provide that shoreside to give that oversight that yes, it has been done correctly. And we can see we have some human element here, familiarity with ECDIS management. We can say yes. And also to further reinforce the human element, we have multiple choice or quiz questions here. So we can see how does your company require you to define the unsafe waters once you have crossed the safety contour, after assuming it's safe to do so. So we can click here, we see the question and the possible answers. So these quiz questions give another way of kind of verifying or validating the crew's familiarity with the human element, so their familiarity with the procedures, etc. And by giving multiple choice questions, the system can then validate, okay, are they answering these correctly? And gives you some indication there, like, are they familiar or is additional training required? So in this case, we can select an answer, no action, and we can show you how that's then followed up within our dashboard for the shore team. And then we can continue to work through these questions. So we can say, yes, we're familiar with this. But maybe one of the crew members is not so familiar. They read this and they say, no. And they could say here, not aware of this requirement. Say this, and again, we can see how these create findings within the system and allow you to then follow up and make sure that the crew are prepared accordingly. So we can work through some more of these, and we can look at some different question types as well. So again, with the big change in human element, we can look at the ECDIS alarm management here. And again, we have a multiple choice question. So again, this quiz allowing you to kind of test the crew, confirm this familiarity. And we can see here in ECDIS alarm management, which of the following are correct. Allow the crew to do this quiz on board, maybe allow them to select multiple answers. So really kind of test their knowledge on board and allow the crew to then work through these questions. Also have text questions here, so we can get them to give longer form answers. So describe the scamming means and how to know if you're on the best scale of chart. This can launch a text box. Now, as you can see within the application, you can type, but there's also very effective voice to text where the crew want to record or sort of transcribe a longer answer here. So instead of having to type, they can simply select the microphone and record their observations here using the voice to text. This enables the crew to make these observations more quickly rather than constantly typing. They can use this, and we've tested this a number of times on board. It's very effective. The crew find it much easier then to make these observations and record this information. And we'll do one more quiz question down here. And which one of the following details the steps to take where there is a full ECDIS failure on board? In this case, select this one. So we can see here a range of different question types, guiding the crew through this preparation process, enabling them to cover the hardware process and human element, using quiz questions, a variety of different type of questions to kind of confirm the arrangement on board, confirm that the processes are being followed, and also test the crew's knowledge as well.
Nick, just before you jump on, there's a couple of questions and a couple of observations. There's a comment that the picture seems to be coming through very blurred, and I think that's something that a number of our attendees are experiencing. Please rest assured we're working on a fix to this. The app doesn't look like that in real life. The second question, however, is more around the setup and configuration of the app itself. And the question is the client-specific configuration of the app carried out in-house, or do we have an external partner in order to do this?
Yeah, great question. So we do that in-house, and that's part of our setup and onboarding process. So this is where we would work with your vetting team to go through your fleet list, understand the vessel types, your company procedures, etc., roles and responsibilities within your specific organization to configure the vessel setup and the roles and responsibilities accordingly. So we have a standardized setup process based on a number of questions that we can review with your vetting team. And once we've gone through those, that will enable the questions to be assigned to the relevant vessels and to the relevant ranks on board those vessels as well.
Amazing, Nick. Thank you.
Was there another question there, Taz, or should we carry on?
No, that all good for the moment, Nick. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, another thing I wanted to just show you, so we can see obviously a range of different questions covering all the different areas. Another area and a key element for side 2 is the photos that need to be provided in advance of the vetting inspection. So there's a standardized photo set that's covered under Chapter 11, General Appearance and Condition. And for each vessel type, there's a standard set of photos that need to be taken each time. Now, these cover kind of an overview of the vessel and need to be taken every 6 months, or if there's a material change in the vessel's condition. And it's key then that your crew are taking these photos in accordance with the OCIMF requirements to allow these to then be reviewed shoreside and uploaded into the OCIMF portal. And again, based on the vessel type, we can configure these so you have the relevant perspectives with the guidance for your specific vessel types. So let's take a look at Chapter 11 as well. So we can see here, we have a range of the different photos. And again, this is ship type specific. So we have just the relevant pictures for the vessel. And we can see here when we open a picture, we have the OCIMF guidance here. So we can see the example picture and also the criteria. So photos must be clear and in focus, must be taken with the camera in landscape, and must not include images of humans. So really guiding the crew here, making sure that these pictures are taken correct first time. And I think this is really important, whereby when we look here for pictures of the outside of the hull, the crew are having to put, for instance, the rescue boat in the water, or maybe have an opportunity when the pilot boat's there. But really, they want to make sure that they get the picture correct first time, rather than waiting, seeing that it's wrong, asking the crew to go through this whole process again, which is takes time and also has risks associated with it. So really providing all of the guidance and allowing the system to guide the crew through these inspections. So once they familiarize themselves with the requirements, they can take picture, which launches the camera in the application. Now, I'm obviously not on board a vessel, but we have our trusty vessel. So we'll take a picture of the bow as if we were in the pilot boat here. We can take the picture there. And we can save the picture. And you can see I had the tablet in portrait mode, and the system is then prompting me to turn it into landscape. So making sure that I get the photo correct with the requirements. So I turn the tablet into landscape. Let's take that photo again. So again, let's take a picture of the ship's bow. Save the picture so we can review it directly. Maybe if it was blurry or there was something wrong, we can review the picture here. We can click save. And then we can move on to the next photo. So photograph hull, forward and starboard side. So again, we have the example picture with the guidance. So we can really guide the crew, make sure that they're taking this picture correct first time. We again switch the tablet to landscape mode, make sure the picture is going to be taken correctly. We can take this photo. So again, making sure that these photos are taken in accordance with the OCIMF requirements and really making sure that they cover the required areas and are taken correctly first time. And we can see here the crew can work through these pictures. Some of them obviously at the outside of the hull required to be either quayside or on a boat, but then there's also other areas that can be taken directly on board the vessel on the main deck. So in that way, the crew can also work through these different pictures, making sure that they collect all of the required pictures in the time and submit these to office. And we can see that shoreside, how they can be reviewed, etc., making sure that they're all correct. Now, everything you've seen running on the tablet is running offline. So the crew can really take the tablet with them anywhere on board the vessel and can complete the required inspection or preparation. As I mentioned, some of these elements may be out on deck checking equipment using the intrinsically safe device, or maybe it's within the accommodation block doing some of the preparation more on the process and the human side of things as well. But fundamentally, that's all running offline on the tablet. And we can see here the inspections, the upload preview, what's been done. And at just the end of the inspection, end of the watch, maybe the end of doing some preparation, the crew can then review what's been done, maybe if they want to just double check some things, and then they can upload. This is where you shoreside can then see these results. So we can click upload here. And this is compressing all the information on the device. So compressing all of those photos to reduce the data transmission and allowing that to then be uploaded to the cloud, where your shore team would then be notified and would also have this all of this information uploaded as well. So that's being compressed directly on the device. And the system's been designed to run on VSAT, for instance, on board. So, really being built for that low bandwidth environment to allow these to be uploaded as simply as possible, reducing the data transfer between the device and the vessel and the cloud. So we'll leave that uploading and we'll jump to the dashboard side of things to see how this looks. So we can see here it's been completed. We have a summary, a positive summary for the crew to explain what's been done, so they can really see how long they took doing the preparation, distance traveled, etc., and the items inspected. And now that that's been uploaded, that information is available shoreside for your shore team to see. So let's jump back to the dashboard and see those results. As I'm transferring back to the dashboard, Taz, is there any questions on the mobile app side of things?
It's like you read my mind. So the next question we've got is all around timeframes and setup. So what's the time frame we're looking at for initial onboarding? And let's say the fleet is around 30 vessels. So I think to paraphrase that question, how long will it take Kaiko Systems to set up those vessels? And then what are we looking at in terms of implementation and rollout there as well?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, by now with system being live on over 500 vessels, this is a process that we've really worked on and refined to make it as efficient and effective as possible. So in terms of the process, we have a multi-step procedure. So obviously the most important factor and often the longest lead time is supplying the vessels with devices. So that really depends on, as per your company, do the vessels already have intrinsically safe devices on board, or is that something that needs to be procured and shipped directly to the vessels? So that's obviously often the longest lead item. So the thing that we work on first and get moving soonest. So, where devices aren't on board, getting that process moving, helping and assisting your teams to make sure that those devices get rolled out as quickly as possible. And as soon as those devices are on board, or if they're on board already, we're ready to go and the system can be rolled out. Now, in conjunction with that, we are doing the system configuration for your company procedures and your specific vessels. So as I mentioned, that would be working with your vetting team to understand the vessel type and arrangement, taking the relevant plans, etc., and setting that up in-house, and also your company roles and responsibilities so we can assign the questions accordingly. In addition, it would be taking those references where you have them already to your procedures. So maybe you already have that mapped out either from the existing VIQ7 with a gap analysis or have that stored somewhere else. So we can therefore import that as well into the system. And therefore we set up the company procedures first with the specific vessel types and then assign those to the relevant vessels. So the process by now is very efficient. We have kind of, like I said, the longest lead is often getting the devices to the vessels. So, working with you to assist you with that. But once the devices are on board, it can be pushed out immediately so that the vessels can start using it as soon as they're configured.
And I think off the back of that, the next question is around what training we offer for the crew, what advice we have for the master, what advice we have for the shore team. So how does Kaiko Systems kind of support with that rollout process across the fleet?
Yeah. So again, another part of the implementation that we've quite carefully refined. So we have a set of guidance instructions and documentation that we provide to the crews on board. So as soon as the tablet's there and they can set it up, it's guided through installing the application, setting up the relevant profiles, etc., and how to work through the questionnaires, collect the information. And we often find that's sufficient for the crews to get going because the interface is really simple, is really user-friendly, and allows them to get going very quickly. And at the same time, through our support and customer success team, we are also touching base with your captains, with your crews on board to make sure that everything's going smoothly and provide additional support where that's required, calls or video calls, etc., to support them where it's needed. With the shore team, we do onboarding for the shore team, either physically or remotely, depending on the arrangement and your location and setup, etc. But do an onboarding for your superintendents or vetting managers, and then again, having the support and the customer success team there for individual inquiries or individual questions and support that's needed.
Nice one, Nick. Thank you. Final question before we move on to the dashboard. And this is a good one. So thank you for asking this one. So in your experience working with crews and organizations using the Kaiko Systems SIRE 2.0 application, what's the one thing you found that crews and shore teams like about the app?
Yeah, really interesting question. So looking at the crews first, I think one of the most important things is being given a system that's built to assist them. So it's not just another process that comes down or another piece of paperwork that needs to be completed, but really being given a system that's built with them in mind to enable them and assist them in completing their tasks. And it takes it from being a mundane paper checklist or Excel list to something that they can see that the company's invested in and is investing in technology to assist them. So it's really, they use smartphones in every other part of their life, and it gives them a device and a system that's designed with them in mind to complete these tasks more efficiently, collect the information, and also the guidance that can be provided. So they're not having to sit in the ship's office reading through the SMS, but they can have the information in the palm of their hand when they're completing their inspection. It enables them to do their job more efficiently and more effectively. So the crews really like that element there. They can collect all the information. And on the shore side, it's the oversight and transparency. So they can see exactly what's happening on board. They have a very thorough oversight of the vessel's overall condition and a summary of all of the issues on board as well. So it enables the shore team to have that holistic view of the vessel condition and status, but then immediately focus on what the issues are and the actions that need to be taken to resolve those as well.
That's epic. Thank you very much. And please do keep your questions coming in. I am monitoring the Q&A button on the application as well. But there's been some great questions so far. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Okay, so let's jump back in. So just quick recap. So what have we done? We set up the vetting preparation periods in the dashboard. Then we did a few inspections on board with the crew, in this case, the master, setting up their profile and working through some of their question set, providing that information. That was all done offline. And then at the end, the master then connected to the Wi-Fi in the accommodation, uploaded everything, and we're back to the dashboard now. So this is what your shore team are using. This is where you have the overview, and you can see immediately you've got all of the data that's been uploaded from the vessel. So again, with this new SIRE 2 regime, and with the extensive questions and areas that need to be covered, the expectation here is the crew are working through this bit by bit over a number of weeks or months. And the beauty of the system is as soon as they upload anything there, then the shore team have visibility. So it's not that everything's done kind of in isolation or in a silo and then just uploaded the day before vetting, but really every time they do something, they upload it. And then it's a more manageable workload for your vetting teams as well to see, okay, what are the issues? What do we need to action? And really what needs to be done as next steps, etc. We can see here then this went from being blank to suddenly populated with information, and we can start to see what the issues are, what the status is, and what needs to be done. So the dashboard is basically arranged in a way that you have an immediate overview of the vessel's status. So how far are they through the vetting preparation? And fundamentally, you can see the issues or the action points and what you need to do next here. So we can see here the total number of questions that need to be addressed by the crew, obviously across all ranks and what's been done so far, and a summary then of the findings or issues that have been reported on board. So here we can see the findings by area. So do we have human findings, process or hardware findings? And this is really important to understand what the next steps would be. Hardware, do we need to fix something on board? Process, do we, is something missing in our procedures, or are the crew not aware of the relevant procedure or not following them on board? And human, is there additional training, familiarization or guidance for the crew to make sure that they are familiar with what's required in advance of the vetting? And then on the risk status, so as you know, we have core rotational 1 and rotational 2 questions. So core questions being asked every vetting inspection, rotational 1, I think on every 2 or 3 vetting, and rotational 2 on every 4 to 6. And this then enables you to understand, okay, like what is the risk that's associated with these questions or the issues that have been reported. So we then draw down and we can see here the findings that have been reported. So this might be issues that have been reported directly by the crew, or also where they've answered some of these questions wrong. So if we have a look here, we can understand what the issues are and start to then take the next steps in really preparing or managing these, rectifying these, so that the crew are prepared for the vetting inspection. So we can see here where one of the multiple choice questions has been answered wrong. So we can see the given answer here. C was answered incorrectly. The answer should be B. So then this is where your shore team can then jump in and start to manage this. So we could say, okay, give the crew till the end of the month, for instance, so set a deadline of when this needs to be followed up. We can see this was reported by the master, and we can say additional training required on ECDIS operations. And we can post this, and this allows us to communicate directly with the crew. So instead of having separate emails or bits and pieces coming in through email, everything is centered here directly on the issue in hand and communicating directly with the crew. And as we post this, we can see I'm logged in here, for instance, as a superintendent reviewing this, and enables us to communicate with the crew. So as soon as we post a comment here, the crew are notified shoreside that there's some action being taken, and then can follow up directly on this. So in this way, the shore team can then review these issues, take next steps. And these comments are visible for all of your shore team as well. So maybe you have a superintendent, maybe a marine manager, a vetting manager, even fleet manager looking at this, and you can all have visibility of exactly what's being done to manage the issues, what's being done to resolve them. And again, cuts down the communication internally. Hey, what's happening with this? Can you follow up on this? You can immediately log in, see the issues, see the actions that are being taken here. So it's very easy to manage the issues, and either to ensure that they're resolved prior to the vetting inspection taking place, or that you have sufficient evidence of what's being done and how those are being managed effectively. So we can see that for all of the findings on board. And then for each individual crew member, or each individual profile that's been set up, we can see the status, so how much they've done of their questions, how far through they are. So obviously the expectation is that they work through these questions from sort of 0 to 100%. And it's very easy to use the filters here to see like what's been done, what's answered or unanswered. So you can really focus on either reviewing what's been done or seeing what's outstanding, enabling you to action that. And for instance, it's very easy as well to see, for instance, where the pictures have been uploaded. So we can go in and we can have a look at the pictures that have been uploaded in chapter 11. So those pictures that we took of the ship's the ship's hull. And it's then very easy to review those in the dashboard. So we've got the photograph dead ahead. So we can see that here. As you can see, in accordance with the OCIMF requirements, the pictures are all time-stamped. So meet the requirements are taken in landscape. And it's very easy for your shore team to then review these pictures and understand, okay, has the condition changed? Do I need to upload a new picture into the OCIMF portal? And we'll also enable that easy download and labeling of the pictures as well. So the crew or the shore team can then review these pictures very easily, have the full history here. And as these pictures are taken over time, every 6 months or maybe more regularly, you'll be able to see the history as well. So you can really see how the condition is changing. Is it changing? Do I need to upload the new pictures? And it's very simple to then select the relevant pictures, download these, and then immediately you can upload those into the OCIMF portal. So it also makes it more efficient for your shore team to also do their preparation and make sure that the pictures and records are all updated accordingly. So we could see here in the dashboard, as soon as we have an upload, as soon as something's been done by the crew, we have that updated overview. And we can see, obviously, as I mentioned, the status, completion status, both at the vessel level and individual ranks, and the findings as well. So we can see here the 4 active findings. These are the issues that need to be managed and resolved, etc. And we could see here again on a yes/no question, where the additional observations are given, so we can really see, okay, what's the issue, what's the problem here? Again, in terms of managing it, we can set the deadline and again, comments. So again, further working through this findings to enable the management here. Now, we looked at this from the dashboard side of things to have this overview and this management from the shore side. And as you can imagine, as all of the crew members work through these rank-specific questionnaires, upload all the questions, you'll see the finding list, obviously, for any issues here. And then you can use the filters to understand exactly, okay, maybe first I need to deal with my core, my high-risk findings, so filtering by that. Maybe I want to look at specific areas because different people shoreside dealing with different areas of the preparation. So you can use all of the filters and sorting to really tailor in on specifically the findings or issues that are relevant to you and need to be managed. Now, before we jump back to the app to show you how that process is managed in terms of the rectification of any issues, Taz, was there any further questions on the dashboard side of things?
Again, just around customization, how customizable is the dashboard, and can organizations pull custom data into the dashboard?
Yeah, great question. So what we've built currently is the overview for vetting preparation to give you that overview of what's been done and allow your crew to then do the preparation of your shore team to review that, ensure everything's ready. I think in terms of the individual customization, that's something that we would need to talk to individual companies about when they do their implementation. But as it stands, out of the box, we have the vetting preparation solution ready to go. So your shore team and your crew could start working from day one in order to make sure that they're prepared and with everything required for the first vetting inspection.
Amazing, thank you. And I think we've got a couple of current Kaiko Systems customers on the call, which is awesome. So welcome. But the question around this is, can the SIRE application that Kaiko has run in conjunction with other Kaiko Systems applications?
Yeah, another great question, and very simple answer, yes. So this is another module that fits within our system. So if you're an existing Kaiko customer, it's a very easy and straightforward rollout. Your crew are already using the devices on board. Your shore team are already familiar with the dashboard. It's just a matter of enabling the new module, setting that up based on the vessel specifics, which we're already familiar with for your fleet. And also the next step would be obviously the ranks and responsibilities relevant to the SIRE question sets. And then that new module can automatically be enabled, pushed out as an update to the relevant vessels. And then as soon as the crew update the application, that's automatically pushed onto their tablet. And then they can start doing their vetting preparation that very day.
Amazing. So we're in our last 10 minutes of the call. So if there are any more questions that anyone would like to ask, please do put them into the chat function.
Brilliant. Maybe just to round out that end-to-end process, we'll just share one more part very quickly. So we'll go back to onboard. So as you saw, the crew started doing the preparation, started working through those questionnaires, obviously raised some issues. Some are raised directly by the crew saying something's wrong, and some of the more human element ones are where questions have been answered incorrectly. And we saw how that information is then presented to the shore team via the web-based dashboard. Added some comments showing how we're managing those findings. And then let's quickly show you how you can the crew are then working through and rectifying those findings on board. So we can see here that the crew then have a list of all of the findings or all of the issues that have been reported. And this is maybe where they can then go in and then start this preparation. So, or start rectifying these. So as we saw, the crew can add comments. So can also reply to the comments that were raised by the shore team. So again, can communicate directly with the shore team, and maybe can also rectify the finding or resolve the issues once they've either fixed the issue on board had some additional training, etc. So it's very easy for either posting comments and communicating or rectifying the finding directly. So we can see for a multiple choice question, they can answer the questions again. And maybe in this case, after they've done some additional training and familiarization, they can redo the question, for instance, select the right answer, upload. And again, this is then managing the process to completion, resolving the issue, and then in the dashboard that would be rectified, and you can see, okay, in advance of the preparation, the issues are being resolved, handled, managed, and closed out on board. So Taz, I think that gives us a kind of overview of the end-to-end process, showing right from the beginning, configuring the vessel, setting up the vetting period, crew doing some of the preparation on board, working through those questionnaires, highlighting or identifying, reporting some issues, and then showing the management of those issues both via the dashboard for the shore team and directly on board using the application as well. So really gives you that holistic end-to-end, enabling you to complete the vetting preparation, manage those issues effectively, and really have that confidence that your vessel and your crew are ready for their first SIRE 2 vetting inspection in 2024.
Amazing. Thanks, Nick. So I think just kind of wrapping up and summarizing what we've seen, what Nick has kind of taken you through is really has shown you a solid workflow between ship and shore, and how that powers kind of quality improvements, allows transparency. And I think what's really, really important, certainly when it comes to SIRE 2.0, is that a self-assessment tool that provides crew training, and in this instance it's learning by doing, so getting your crew familiar with the types of question sets, getting your crews familiar with the way that questions will be asked by the vetting inspectors, and using that data and pushing that data into a real-time dashboard, allowing your shore team to have those valuable performance insights, really does revolutionize how organizations can prepare and ensure readiness for SIRE 2.0. I think on the flip side as well, that live dashboard also provides this element of real-time risk analysis. And in this instance, it's not risk of detention, it's not risk of vessels becoming unserviceable, it's risk of failure. And it's ensuring that your shore team, your superintendents, your technical experts that you've employed as part of your organization are really able to minimize the effect of negative observations and ensure that actually every single vessel in your fleet passes the OCIMF vetting inspection first time. I think what's really important here is that organizations like Kaiko Systems can provide regulatory compliance, but we also use the data to help you really increase and improve your operational performance, whether that's asset performance, crew performance, shore team performance, across every single element of your fleet. And I think, the big thing to think about is longer term, what we're able to do is drive efficiencies through your organization and ultimately have a positive effect on your OPEX and CAPEX as well. Before I jump into final questions, what I do want to mention is that if you would like to see Nick and I in the flesh, we do have the opportunity and the option to arrange a free trial on board one of your vessels. We are really offering a guided trial, so we will set up your vessel as a vessel on board our app and really take you through step by step everything you need to do in order to conduct a SIRE 2.0 self-assessment. You can scan the QR code on the screen now, or you can visit www.kaikosystems.com/trial, or if you want a bit of human interaction, my email is there as well. So please do feel free to get in touch. Final couple of questions that we have in the app at the moment is around kind of the exchange of data, Nick. So the question is, does the data exchange between ship and shore, the uploads from the app to the dashboard, require a high volume of internet data?
No. So the system's been designed, with specific ship internet connections in mind. So, whether that's a VSAT connection or even using an LTE connection by shore on mobile router, etc. As I mentioned, all of the data is compressed directly on the device. So all of those pictures are compressed down to reduce the data size. But as you can see within the dashboard, you don't lose quality. So you can still see all of the detail and all of the information. So yeah, it's very, let's say, data or bandwidth efficient in that regard.
And that's something that we actually set up during the implementation process as well, isn't it? We take into account the specific bandwidth requirements on board a vessel, and we're able to tailor that upload size as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we can iteratively change that as well. So we often do a trial or test upload from the vessel just to see how long it takes, etc. And then we can change the compression based on the vessel's bandwidth and connectivity to really optimize it for the specific vessel.
Brilliant. I think final question for this morning's webinar or this afternoon's webinar is, are these questions that we have in the app ones that will be asked by SIRE inspectors? Does the app cover all of the questions from SIRE inspectors, and how have we really formatted and created that process? Yeah,
another great question. So yes, it covers all of the questions that are in that OCIMF question library. So there's 1,200 pages, 12 chapters, all of those questions are covered. And we've gone to kind of an additional level of detail working with our development partners and the experienced vetting inspector to really tailor the questions. So where you have a kind of OCIMF question, under that you have expected evidence, inspector actions, negative grounds for negative observation. And we've taken all of that information to create questions that are then covering all of those relevant points. So your crew under each OCIMF question can ensure that they are prepared and they are ready for what the inspector will do on board, the evidence that they will expect, and also anything they would be looking for to give, for the grounds for negative observation. So all of those questions are covered to enable your crew to work through that and cover all relevant areas.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, all that's left for me to say is thank you to all of you for attending the webinar this morning. And both Nick and I hope that you found the insight and the information useful. There's a couple of rounds of applause appearing on my screen as well, which is fantastic. Just a reminder, that free trial is available to every single one of you. So please do take advantage of it. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website in order to book that in. That is it from me. That is it from Nick. We will hopefully see you soon on another Kaiko Systems webinar. But once again, thank you for attending, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.